My name is Maya. I'm 29 years old, live in a city apartment with tall windows and too many coffee mugs, and I'm 2 months away from marrying the man I thought would be my forever. Ethan, steady hands, calm eyes, someone who made Sunday mornings feel like home. We met at a client pitch 3 years ago. I was leading the campaign. He was part of the legal team reviewing it. He once told me I spoke like I'd already won the room before I even walked in. I liked that. I liked him. And now we were engaged, planning a late summer wedding in Maine. Until the night, everything cracked. It started small. Ethan came home late 3 nights in a row. He didn't kiss my shoulder when I made tea. Didn't ask about my pitch for the new skincare brand. And when I placed my phone on the counter, I saw his eyes flick to it. Quick, uncertain. Then came the quiet questions. Have you been out a lot lately? Who's M in your recent texts? I laughed. I told him it was Madeline, my new assistant. But the way he nodded, it wasn't convinced. Something had changed. It was Friday when I found out why. I was visiting my parents' house, an hour outside the city. Tessa, my older sister, was already there. Perfect Tessa. Glossy curls, a smile that could shut down any argument, and the family's golden child since we were kids. She'd tried out for a morning show anchor role and almost landed it. Now she worked PR for small-time reality stars. My mother adored her. My father always introduced me as the brainy one, and her as the beauty. It wasn't a compliment. I walked past the hallway and heard it. Tessa's voice, hushed, dramatic. She's been sneaking around. I didn't want to say anything, but I couldn't let Ethan walk into that blindly. I stopped walking. Pressed my back to the wall. She's seeing someone else, Tessa said. I saw the texts myself. I even showed Ethan. He was crushed. My throat went dry. Texts? There were no texts. I hadn't even gone out for dinner without Ethan in weeks. I felt my knees tighten, as if my body braced for a blow. Later that night, I asked him, softly, carefully, like I already knew what he'd say. Ethan, do you trust me? He looked at me for a long time, then pulled out his phone, swiped, opened his gallery, and handed it to me. The screen showed blurry screenshots, my name, a man's name I didn't recognize, flirty messages, dates, receipts. I didn't want to believe it, Ethan whispered, but Tessa showed me everything. I stared at the screen. The messages looked real. The timestamps were recent. But I hadn't sent them. I hadn't even seen that number before. I handed him back the phone, slowly, like it might burn me. Can I keep this? I asked. He nodded, and in that moment, I knew someone had gone to war behind my back, and they were about to lose. I sat on the edge of the bathtub for over an hour that night. Ethan had gone to bed early. He didn't kiss me goodnight. He didn't even look at me when he walked past. My phone felt like a ticking bomb in my hand. I opened the gallery. Screenshot 1, a message that read, "Last night was amazing," from my number, to a contact named Cameron. Screenshot 2, "I can't wait to see you again. Don't worry, he suspects nothing." My chest tightened. I'd never written those words. I'd never spoken those words. I didn't even know a Cameron. The timestamp said last Tuesday, but last Tuesday, Ethan and I were binge-watching a cooking show in sweats, passing a bowl of popcorn back and forth. I checked my own phone. No messages like that existed. No Cameron. No late-night flings. Nothing. Someone had fabricated this. But they had done it well. Too well. They had used my profile picture, the exact formatting of my messages, my punctuation, even the way I overuse ellipses. Who would know how to imitate me that well? Only someone who had seen my real conversations. Only someone who lived close enough to listen. Tessa. My blood ran cold. She was always borrowing my phone. "Just for a sec," she'd say, "to check something." I never thought much of it. She had my backup passcode. Of course she did. We were sisters. We used to share everything. Clothes, makeup, secrets. But somewhere along the line, she stopped sharing and started taking. I tapped into Ethan's phone again, saved the screenshots. forwarded them to my email. Then I did what I hadn't done in years. I called Jamie. Jamie had been my roommate in college and now worked in cybersecurity. She picked up on the second ring. "Maya?" she said, groggy but concerned. "I need your help," I said. "I think someone faked messages to make it look like I cheated." There was a pause. Then, "Send everything you have. Now." I sent the screenshots. She called back within minutes. "These are either edited images or pulled from a spoof app," she said. "I've seen this trick before. It's ugly, but it's traceable." I closed my eyes. "I think my sister did it," I said. Jamie didn't ask why. She just said, "Then let's find out." We set up a screen share session. She walked me through how to check metadata, timestamps, message structure. "These messages were captured using a third-party interface," she explained. "And that contact? Cameron? It's not a real thread. It's a simulation." My hands shook. "So it's fake?" "Not just fake," Jamie said. "Deliberately manufactured. And guess what IP address shows up in the metadata?" I held my breath. She read it out. I recognized the location. Tessa's apartment. It all snapped into place like glass shattering in reverse. Ethan didn't know. But I did. My sister framed me. And now I had the proof. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was devastated, but because I was awake in every possible way. I lay in bed beside Ethan, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd gotten here. Framed. By the same girl who once braided my hair before school dances. But deep down, I wasn't shocked. I'd seen the signs before. This wasn't new, just louder. Tessa had always known how to make things bend her way. In high school, when I got the lead in the play, she told everyone I cried for it. When I got my first internship at a fashion label, she told my parents it was unpaid, a hobby. When I landed a feature in a small industry magazine, she posted her brunch on the same day and tagged all our relatives. I wasn't dramatic enough. I wasn't shiny. And apparently, I wasn't allowed to be happy if she wasn't. But Ethan? Waxing. He was the one thing she never had access to. Until now. Until I made the mistake of inviting her into our space. It was just for a week. She said her apartment needed fumigation. She smiled, called it a mini sister's retreat, and I let her stay. She stayed in our guest room, used my skincare, wore my sweatshirt, laughed a little too loud when Ethan joked. I didn't notice the way her eyes lingered, the way she watched us, studied us. I thought she was just lonely. Or bored. But maybe she was waiting. Waiting for the crack she could slip through. And when it didn't come, she made one. I remember her leaving her phone unlocked on the counter one night. Messages open. A man's name. I glanced. She snatched it fast. "Oh, nothing serious," she said too quickly. At the time, I let it go. Now I knew better. Jamie had confirmed it. The fake texts came from a device connected to Tessa's Wi-Fi. It was all mapped, time-stamped, logged. Ethan didn't know that yet. He still looked at me like I was a stranger. Still kissed me with hesitance. Still stared too long at my phone when it buzzed. I didn't blame him. Not yet. Because Tessa was good. She didn't just plant evidence. She harvested doubt, made it grow, watered it with her sweet concern and practiced tears. I could almost hear her voice in his head. "I just didn't want her to hurt you, Ethan." But that's the thing about lies. They rot from the inside. And now that I had the truth? How? I wasn't going to scream it. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to let it unfold the way it should. Quiet. Precise. Unmistakable. I emailed the metadata logs to myself. Backed them up on a hard drive. Then I made a call. Not to Ethan. Not to Tessa. But to my lawyer. Because if she wanted to play with my life, she'd learn the hard way what happens when I stop being the quiet one. Do you want revenge or results? That's what my lawyer, Simone, asked me the moment I laid everything out. I sat across from her in her corner office, watching the city move behind glass. "I want the truth seen," I said. "No more secrets, no more pretending I didn't notice." Simone nodded. Then she rolled up her sleeves. "We went through everything. The screenshots, the metadata, the server logs Jamie helped extract. Even a few photos from Tessa's old phone I'd found on our shared cloud drive. One stood out. Tessa, in my bathroom mirror, holding my phone, time-stamped 2 days before the messages supposedly started. She'd had full access. She just didn't think I'd ever put the pieces together. Simone drafted a statement of digital harassment, just in case. Not to file, not yet, but to hold. A backup plan. Insurance for whatever came next. Because now, I had to play smart. I had to be still. If Tessa thought I knew, she'd panic. If Ethan found out too soon, he'd deny it. Maybe even defend her. I couldn't risk that. So I smiled more at dinner. Made his favorite lentil curry. Let him talk about his day. And kept one eye on my inbox. Jamie sent an update. Tracked the original fake screenshots to an app called TextFo. Only one subscription in your zip code last week. Guess who? She attached the billing info. Tessa's full name. Her email. Her debit card's last 4 digits. It was undeniable. She paid to frame me. She forged the texts. She sent them to Ethan. And then she went one step further. I didn't know it yet, but she wasn't done, because the following morning, Ethan left his laptop open. He always did. And something on the screen caught my eye. A message thread. It was Tessa. A different tone. Playful. Intimate. I knew I shouldn't scroll, but I did. My stomach twisted with every line. Her. You looked so stressed yesterday. Should I come by again? Him. I don't think Maya noticed. But we should be careful. I stopped breathing. It wasn't just framing. It wasn't just sabotage. They had been talking. Privately, secretly. And worse, it was emotional, maybe physical. I didn't need confirmation. The betrayal was already acid in my throat. I closed the laptop, wiped the keys where my fingers had shaken, and I smiled to myself. Because now, I didn't need a speech. Or a confrontation. All I needed was timing. The engagement dinner was next week. A full guest list. Our families. Old friends. The ones who believed we were the perfect couple. Tessa would be there. In a red dress she already showed off in the group chat. Ethan would be there, standing beside me like nothing was wrong. And I would be there too, but not as the bride-to-be. Not anymore. I'd be the storyteller. And for the first time, I'd let them hear everything. The night before the engagement dinner, I stood in front of the mirror in silence, not to check my makeup, not to admire my dress, but to look at myself and remember who I was before they tried to erase me, before my sister became a saboteur in heels, before my fiancé became a stranger with secrets. I slipped into a deep, green satin dress. Not red. That was Tessa's color. Let her have the spotlight. She always needed it more than me. I didn't need to shine. I just needed to be seen. I packed the hard drive into my purse, checked it 3 times. It had everything. The fake screenshots, the IP logs, the app receipt, the flirtatious texts between Ethan and Tessa, screenshots of their private chat, right from his computer. I didn't change the names, didn't blur the details. If I was going to burn this illusion down, I wanted everyone to feel the heat. At 7 p.m., I arrived at the venue. It was a rooftop restaurant downtown, all string lights and linen tablecloths. People were already seated. My mom waved at me from across the room. Dad gave a small nod. They looked proud, like they finally believed I had done something worth celebrating. Tessa walked in 10 minutes later, wearing a scarlet dress that clung to her like a victory flag. She kissed Ethan on the cheek, a little too close, a little too slow. I watched it happen. So did my reflection in the champagne glass. But no one else noticed. Not yet. Ethan stood beside me like he'd earned the right. He held my hand, loosely, like he was scared of the warmth. I leaned into the microphone. Before we toast, I have a short video to share. The crowd quieted. Laughter turned to murmurs. I connected the hard drive to the projector. Clicked play. The screen flickered. Then, slide 1. A screenshot of the fake messages from me. Slide 2. The app used to create them, with Tessa's billing info circled. Slide 3. Jamie's email confirming it was spoofed. And finally, the text messages. Her, "You looked so good in that gray sweater yesterday." Him, "You really think she suspects?" The room went dead quiet. Not a single clink of a glass. Not a gasp. Just silence thick enough to drown in. I stepped back from the screen, turned to the guests. I didn't want to believe it either. But facts don't care about appearances. I'm not the one who cheated. I'm the one who got framed by her own sister and betrayed by her own fiancé. And I thought it was time you all knew the truth. I walked off the platform. No tears, no rage, just clarity. Behind me, I heard my mother whisper, "What is happening?" Tessa stood frozen, hand trembling at her wine glass. Ethan called after me, voice shaking. "Maya, wait!" I didn't. I never needed them to follow. They had already shown me who they were. I didn't walk out fast. I walked out steady, not like a woman who'd been shattered, but like one who had finished cleaning up the mess someone else made. Behind me, I heard the buzz build. Chairs scraped. Glasses clinked. Mouths moved, but I didn't care what they said anymore. Outside, the night air was crisp. Cool enough to remind me I was alive, strong enough to carry me forward. I stood at the curb, flagging a cab, when my phone rang. Ethan. I let it ring, let it finish. Then it rang again. I turned it off. He didn't deserve words. Not yet. Maybe not ever. By the time I got home, my inbox was flooding. 3 emails from my mom, 2 missed calls from Aunt Linda, 1 message from Tessa. Just her name, no preview, no apology. I deleted it. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The truth had been handed over. No drama, no screaming, just evidence. Undeniable. In the morning, I woke to find my story everywhere. Someone had recorded the dinner, posted the video on a private family Facebook group. From there, it spilled into our friend circles. And then, into our professional ones. A former colleague of Ethan's messaged me. "Never thought he'd stoop that low. Proud of you for staying composed," another said. "Let us know if you need help cleaning up his mess." The support surprised me. But it didn't change what had happened. I'd still been betrayed, framed, publicly humiliated before I turned the table. At noon, Ethan showed up at my apartment. I didn't buzz him in. He waited outside for 20 minutes, then slid a note under the door. I didn't know what to believe. I was scared. I was stupid. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't glue. Sorry doesn't erase the night I sat on the bathroom floor, wondering what lie would destroy me next. 2 hours later, Tessa sent a voice note. I didn't open it, but I saved it, just in case. Jamie called. "You all right?" "I'm breathing." "That's enough today." She paused. "Did you see what else we found?" "What do you mean?" "There's more." I didn't want to overwhelm you last night, but she tried this before. "What?" 2 years ago. She used a similar app to frame a coworker who beat her out for a promotion. It didn't stick, but there's a complaint on file. Want me to send it over? I leaned back, laughed. Because of course she did. Tessa wasn't new to betrayal. She was just practiced. Now she was exposed. Not just as a sister with bad judgment, but as a repeat manipulator. I told Jamie, save it. Not for court, not for drama. Just for me. So I remember never to trust silence just because it's pretty. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, looked out over the skyline, and smiled. Because the next move wasn't theirs. It was mine. 3 days passed. Not a word from Tessa, not a knock from Ethan. Just silence. The kind that used to scare me. Now it felt like freedom. I spent the time cleaning, not just my apartment, but my inbox, my calendar, my contacts. I deleted our wedding website, called the venue and canceled the booking, told the florist to keep the deposit. She didn't ask why, she said she'd seen the video. Everyone had. I was walking through the ashes of a life someone else tried to burn, but they forgot I owned the matches. Then, on a Thursday morning, Jamie sent me a file. "Not sure if you want to see this," the message said. Attached was a folder. Inside were chat logs, private messages, between Tessa and Ethan. On a different platform, one I didn't know they used. They must have started this long before the fake texts. The first message was dated 6 months ago. "Tessa, you and Maya are sweet, but do you ever wonder what you're missing?" Ethan, "Sometimes. You're more wild. Maya's too measured." I stopped reading, paused, then kept going. "Tessa, if I told you something, would you hate me?" Ethan, "Never." Tessa, "I don't think she's being faithful." Ethan, "What do you mean?" Tessa, "I've seen her texts. She deletes them. I think there's someone else." And just like that, the hook was in. She didn't have to show proof right away. She planted doubt. Let it grow. Watered it with half-truths and coy messages. Ethan, for his part, didn't resist. He questioned. But not enough. He fed into it. "Tessa, if I were her, I'd treat you better. I wouldn't hide things." Ethan, "I wish she was more like you sometimes." My chest went cold. Not from sadness, from clarity. I thought she'd forged one betrayal, but it was two, the fake texts. And the slow poisoning of my fiancé's trust. She didn't seduce him with one act. She wore him down with attention, with validation, with lies. And he let her. Every time she flirted, he smiled back. Every time she hinted, he leaned closer. He never stopped her. He just didn't stop himself either. I forwarded the messages to Simone. "Still don't want to press charges?" she asked. "Not yet," I replied. "But I want them documented." She said, "Understood." That night, I made a new folder. Named it What They Deserved. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I saved every file, zipped it, and backed it up 3 different ways. This wasn't revenge. It was insurance. Because people like Tessa don't stop. They spin stories. They rewrite history. And I wanted to be ready the next time she tried to make me the villain. I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. And now, I was done giving people like her the benefit of the doubt. Fallout doesn't always arrive like a bomb. Sometimes it comes like rain. Quiet, steady, unavoidable. It started with a phone call from my father. He rarely called unless it was about taxes or birthdays. But this time, his voice was tense. "Your sister is a mess," he said. "Your mother's crying. Ethan's parents called us. What did you do?" I almost laughed. "What did I do?" I said. "You humiliated her, Maya. She humiliated herself. She's family. So was I." Until that didn't matter anymore. He sighed like he was holding something back. Then he hung up. Just like that. Click. Silence again. Tessa didn't reach out. Not a call. Not a message. Not a single, "I'm sorry." But Ethan did. He showed up again, this time with flowers. Red tulips. My least favorite. He stood in my hallway like he was owed something. "I made a mistake," he said. "I believed someone I shouldn't have." "You didn't just believe her," I said. "You flirted with her. You fed the lie. You watched it grow. I didn't think it would go that far. You let it go that far." He looked ashamed. "But shame doesn't rewind betrayal." "You let her convince you I was cheating," I said. "You never even asked me. You never looked me in the eye." "I was scared." "You were weak." He didn't argue. I handed him a small box. Inside was the engagement ring. I'd had it cleaned. Polished. Not for sentiment, but for closure. He looked down at it. "I don't want it back," he said. "I don't care what you want," I replied. He took the box. Left without another word. No dramatic goodbye, no plea. Just heavy footsteps, and the soft click of the door closing. Later that evening, my mom texted. She didn't mean it. She's spiraling. Can't you just forgive her? I didn't reply. Because what they were really saying was, can't you just forget it? Can't you be the bigger person again? The quieter one? The one who swallows it and keeps the peace? Call low. But I'd been doing that my entire life. I was done digesting poison to keep others comfortable. 2 days later, my inbox pinged. A new message. Subject, apology and admission. Sender, Tessa. I stared at it. Didn't open it. Just stared. She had used the word I thought she was incapable of. But it was too late. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I had already found something better. Peace. That week, I met with a publisher, an old friend who had seen the video. He said, if you ever wanted to write it, your story, I'd print every page. And for the first time, I didn't hesitate. I'll think about it, I said. Not for fame, not to drag them again, but because the truth, once buried, needs oxygen. And I wasn't afraid of telling mine anymore. I thought I was done. I thought the story had reached its final scene. But closure has a funny way of knocking twice. And this time, it came from the last person I expected. Luca. Ethan's best friend since college. A man who had always smiled politely around me but kept his distance. I'd barely exchanged 10 full sentences with him in 3 years. So when I saw his name flash across my screen, I hesitated. Subject, you deserve to know. I clicked. His message was short. Direct. Maya, I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I've known something was off between Ethan and Tessa for months. He wouldn't admit it, but I saw them messaging late at night during game nights. She'd call, he'd step outside, he'd lie, say it was work. At first, I didn't want to get involved, but after what happened at the dinner, I can't stay quiet. Attached were screenshots, messages, photos, evidence. Not just of emotional betrayal, but physical. The night Ethan said he was working late 2 weeks ago? Why? There was a photo of him and Tessa outside a downtown hotel, laughing, her hand on his chest. Time-stamped. Undeniable. I sat back in my chair, closed my eyes. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed what I already knew. The fake messages were the spark. But the fire had been burning for a long time. I forwarded the email to Simone. She replied in 10 minutes. Do you want a file? No, I typed. I want it documented, that's all. But a different idea was already forming. Not revenge, not even public shame, just truth. Unfiltered. So I uploaded everything to a drive. Every file. Every screenshot. Every chat. Every timeline. And I sent one single email. To my entire extended family. Subject line, the story you were never told. No explanation, no summary, just the link. And a final line. If you still think I'm the villain, at least now you'll know why I left the party early. Then I turned off my phone. Walked to the park. Sat on a bench under the fading evening light. Watched kids chase pigeons and couples share popcorn. And I exhaled. Not like someone trying to calm down, but like someone finally breathing for the first time in weeks. When I got home, there were messages. Tons. Some angry, some apologetic, some shocked, but none of them changed anything. Because the people who needed to know the truth had finally seen it. Not from my lips, but from the receipts. And Tessa? She didn't respond, not to the email, not to the fallout. She disappeared from our family group chat, deleted her Instagram. And Ethan? He texted me. One line. I deserve everything that's happening right now. He was right. And I was finally free. A week after the email, I packed my bags. Not out of sadness, not out of shame, but because I needed space to build something new. Something that wasn't made from borrowed trust and broken boundaries. I booked a rental by the coast. Small, quiet, with a writing desk that faced the ocean. The first night there, I slept with the windows open. Let the wind erase whatever lingered in the corners of my chest. I didn't cry. I didn't scroll through old photos. I didn't replay what ifs. Because what happened wasn't a bad dream. It was a choice. Theirs. And this, finally, was mine. I got one last message from Tessa. No greeting, no apology. Just, "You ruined my life." I stared at it, then typed back, "No, you just got caught trying to ruin mine." I hit send. Blocked her. Not because I was angry, but because I was done giving her space in a story she didn't deserve to narrate. I changed my number 2 days later. Only gave it to 5 people. Jamie was one of them. She texted, "So, when are you writing the book?" I smiled. "Not yet. But maybe, someday." I returned the dress I was supposed to wear down the aisle. Donated the table settings. Gave the ring to a women's shelter that repurposed jewelry for survivors. Everything I let go of made space for something better. Not cleaner, not easier, just honest. And when people asked what happened with Ethan, I didn't hide it. I told the truth. He didn't cheat because he fell in love with someone else. He cheated because he was afraid of being seen by someone who already knew him too well. That answer always made them pause, because that was the truth about betrayal. It rarely comes from strangers. It comes from the ones who know exactly where you keep your trust and how to break it. I saw a photo of Ethan a few months later. He looked thinner, lonely. Tessa was nowhere in sight. I didn't smile. I didn't pity him either. It was just a glimpse of someone I used to love, now living the consequences of everything he'd ignored. Closure didn't come in an apology. It came in the silence that followed truth. The peace of knowing I didn't bend to keep the illusion. I chose the mirror over the mask. I chose my sanity over their comfort. 1 year later, I published an essay. It wasn't about them. It was about the moment you stop explaining your worth to people who only hear what suits them. It went viral, not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. At the end, I wrote, "You don't have to scream to be heard. You just have to stop whispering to those who never listen." And I meant every word, because sometimes the loudest thing you can do is walk away and never look back. What do you think about Maya's decision? Was she too harsh, or was this the only way to truly protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories about family.